Welcome back to today's video. Now you might be aware that it's Palm Sunday in the UK next week, and I'm going to show you how to create a gorgeous, fairly symmetrical, quite traditional design using amazing palm leaves and some white Oriental lilies. In today's video, I'm going to be using the white Oriental lily, which has got a really heavy perfume to it. And I'm going to compare two different grades of lily. This one I've bought in probably about a week in advance so that I get to have some open heads to work into the focal area. But I'm also going to use some florist grade lilies, which are much longer in length and have more heads per stem. And that's how we grade lilies. We grade them on the stem length and the amount of heads per stem. So this is an ordinary supermarket one. These had 5 smaller stems in a bunch. And I'll just hold up alongside it a florist grade lily, which to me has absolutely no comparison. We just put them by the side. So the stem length is not comparable. This one has 3 heads on the top, whereas the florist grade one has approximately 7. So value for money wise, the florist grade lily is going to cost you more money, but you're going to get a much bigger head. And I'm going to pause because somebody has just decided to come with a lorry full of gravel and tip it right outside my studio. So we're going to wait a minute for that to finish. Welcome back. Hopefully no more disturbances. So we were looking at lilies and how the florist grade compares to the supermarket grade. And really you've got to work within the budget you've been provided. The design I'm creating today is aimed at church for Palm Sunday or for Easter. But it would be ideal for a wedding. You could do it in a large scale as a pedestal arrangement, or you could make it smaller by using just the supermarket grade lilies. Now, if you are doing flowers for the church or for a wedding and you want them to be open for the day of the wedding, then you need to really think about the preparation and the conditioning of the flowers. Buy them so it gives them a chance to open. It's no good really producing a design where you need that wow factor on the day and your flowers are still in bed. Alternatively, if you're arranging flowers for the church and you want them to last a longer period of time, then I would probably arrange with them still in the bed. And what I've done today is I've got the florist grade ones still closed, so they're going to have a chance to open over the next 2 weeks. So if you are creating designs for the church, it's a really good one for value for money. And then I've got 3 stems of more open lilies that I've had in advance, given them a chance to open so that I can present those in the focal area of the design. So we have that dominant section at the bottom. I only have one type of foliage today, and that's palms. And again, this is the florist grade palm. I have 10 stems here. You might be lucky if you're living in a part of the world where these grow naturally. You could have them in your garden. You could be able to forage for them. Here in the UK, I have to go and buy them from the florist supplies. But they are gorgeous. And that will give quite a soft texture alongside those very hard, heavy looking lilies. Now, if you want a lily that doesn't have scent to it, you could look at the rose lily, which is a double-headed lily, or you could buy a longiflorum lily, which has that longer shape and doesn't have any scent at all. Now this design is going to be arranged in floral foam because I want it to be quite formal with a structured pattern, but you could quite successfully do this in chicken wire or arrange them in a simple vase and still get quite an impressive design. But I know that there's a huge amount of the followers on the channel that really want to learn to arrange flowers in foam. Right, enough of the talking. In my container, I have some floral foam. Now this wooden container here is quite an old base that I think I picked up in a charity shop, and I think it's possibly a collection bowl that would have originally been in a church. It's quite old. There are some watermarks on the outside, and it probably could do with some love and attention with some teak oil or something, but I'm going to use it as it is today. My thoughts are that my flowers are big, the palms are quite large and impressive. I want to create a large design for the back of the altar or to sit on top of a pedestal. So I need to have a really substantial base. The proportions for this design are going to work off the width of my container, not the height. So often I encourage you to go twice the height of the container. This time I'm going to use the longer measurement, which is the width. My mechanics for today are floral foam, and I've used a plastic dish to hold the foam. I've done that for two reasons. It means that I will be able to add water in here and there will be a constant supply of water. And I've also done it to protect the wooden bowl, which I'm guessing is going to be porous and would absorb and pull out the water from in the floral foam. This also means that if the design is displayed in an awkward position in the church, it's quite easy to lift it out, to replenish it with water, or to remove any of the flowers as they're dying and starting to look a little sad. I originally had 2 blocks of floral foam and I've cut them down so that I've got approximately 2/3 of the full block. And if you are a church flower arranging lady, please don't reuse your foam. There isn't any way of re-soaking the foam once it's been allowed to dry out. It is unfortunately a single-use plastic, but it is something that's still hugely used in the industry. There are other alternatives, but you don't get that quite symmetrical formal pattern that I'm looking at doing today. You'll get something more informal, more loosely arranged, which a lot of people might prefer. Now, I'm restricted with this arrangement by the length of my palms. That's going to give me the overall height of my arrangement. And if I compare it to my container, it's roughly the same size. So I can't use those traditional proportions of going twice the height of my container, which really is going to create a very large floral design. So I'm almost using the same measurement. So my design is the same height as my bowl. And I'm going to start by placing that in the middle of the foam towards the back. So I'm allowing myself about 1 inch at the back of the foam there to add some extra greenery and to thicken that back section out. Now I've placed this in quite a severe right angle, and I'm going to slightly tilt it back so it's a bit more relaxed. It doesn't look quite so rigid and static there at the back. Then what I'm going to do, so I've got my height in, I'm going to pick myself 2 more pieces of the palm and I'm going to create my widths. Now what I'm going to consider is going the same width as my back piece of greenery. So if I just hold that up and compare the two, my sides are going to be almost the same as my height there at the back. And what I'm thinking with the palm is I don't want to cut too much off the length because it gives that really lovely floaty sort of appearance at the side. Now these shorter pieces, these smaller pieces of foam, they're not wide enough to accommodate a stem of lilies. So I'm just going to come slightly above them and work my palms into the centre of the foam. And you'll see what I've done there with the palms is I've lined them up with that back piece of greenery. So we have a shape forming at the back, which is positioned in the same place. Then I'm going to angle 2 pieces forward, but this time we're going to go shorter. So I'm going to cut 2 palms. And what you'll probably notice I'm doing is I'm measuring them alongside one another. And then I know that the left and the right of my arrangement is fairly symmetrical. You don't have to do that. And as you become more confident, you'll be able to do that by eye. But what we've got here is the height, my widths, and now I'm going to bring 1 piece to the front so that we're creating, or we're starting to create the depth of the arrangement. And now I have a fabulous outline. And if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I like to create an outline with an arrangement before I start so that I know what my overall shape is going to be. And then to sort of strengthen shape at the back, I'm going to use another 2 palms on either side of the centre, fanned out from the middle so we get that lovely traditional loose sort of triangle form in there to form the outline of my arrangement. So this time it's a triangle that has equal sort of proportions. The height and the width is very similar. We haven't gone for a triangle where we're a lot taller at the back and shorter on the sides. And then these sections that are from the bottom of the palm, I'm going to add in to give me a bit of texture at the base and to help cover the foam. But at this stage, I don't want to overfill the middle because the stems of my lilies are quite big. So I want to allow enough room within the greenery to put my lily stems, and then I can fill in at the end if I have any gaps showing and I need to hide my foam. I haven't at this stage done anything to the back, so the 2 remaining palms that I've had from this packet, I'm going to work in at the back. And by angling them slightly better, I start to achieve some depth at the back and that 3-dimensional quality that I like to talk about all the time. Now, if this is sitting in an alcove at the church, or it's on top of the altar, there is a possibility that you might have to keep this flat because it will be going up against a wall. Maybe if it's sitting on top of the font, you will be able to create more depth. Sometimes you need to think as well about the areas that are visible. So if this was sitting on top of a font, you would possibly see the back of it. So you'd have to neatly finish that off and not leave it flat without any greenery in there at all. So my final couple of pieces, just low down at the back here, these will help to cover that plastic tray and make sure that my floral foam is completely covered, because that's really important, because it'll prevent the water from evaporating too quickly. Now, if you're new here to the channel, my name is Sharon. Welcome. If you want to learn anything about flowers, you're in the right place. At this point, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell to be told every time I upload a new tutorial, and like and share. Let me know what you think of the design, where you're watching me from, which I always find fascinating. And if there's any designs that you would like to see explained on a tutorial, then pop it in the box below as well. Right, that's my outline shape. I'm quite happy with that. It's not particularly tall. It's a triangular, a loose sort of triangular shape with these gorgeous soft palms along the outside. And before I add my flowers, I'm going to slightly raise the design up so that you don't lose those palms on the edge of the camera. Now, for parts of this video, you might completely lose me because I'm going to be behind this gorgeous array of palms. But I'm going to start by looking for a lily that doesn't have any open flower heads, because that's going to give me a better shape. What a lot of beginners tend to do is they put the bigger, more open flowers here at the top because they think they're the most important ones. But the open flowers always come towards the focal point, which is roughly 2/3 of the way down from the top. So this lovely lily is going to be positioned towards the back, just in front of that outline that I created with the palms, and that will initially give me the height. Now, I know I mentioned that the large open flowers come towards the centre, and you're probably thinking, well, that's not going to apply when those flowers start to open, because once the flower heads start to open, the dynamic of the arrangement is going to completely change. But you need to know the rules, and if you know the rules, you can play around and go a little off-piste if you decide to. Just like I created the outline shape of the greenery, I'm going to do the same steps. I'm going to follow the steps that I used to create the outline, but this time I'm going to use my lilies. Now, I have these 2 lilies which have got some damaged stems or damaged heads on the side. Don't throw that away, put it in a small vase. You can use it in another arrangement later in the week. And then I've got this one, which has also had a damaged head on it. So I'm thinking, oh, there's another damaged one on there. And that sometimes happens because the heads are so heavy, they sometimes snap. It doesn't spoil the overall quality. And what I'm thinking is these 2 look fairly similar. I'm just going to chop that top bit off, which is a bit damaged. They look fairly similar. So if I want to use them in the left and the right of the arrangement, they're going to look fairly similar. So let's start by placing these in. This one is going to be cut long enough so it can sit on the side of the arrangement just in front of that palm. And try and remember that the palm leaves, or whatever leaves you use to create the outline, create the size of your arrangement. And then the lily stems, or whatever flowers you're using, are always worked within the size that you've already created. And I'm aiming to have a fairly symmetrical design. What I am going to do is cut this big head off here, because I'm thinking that when it opens, it's not going to have the space around it to open, because I'm going to be using these more open lilies in the middle to demonstrate to you what the design should look like. Now, one of the issues of buying a good quality grade flower from the florist shop is that sometimes there are too many heads on it. Can we have too many heads in the floristry world? I don't know. But this one has a lovely tip on the end. And what I can do is cut that center point out so that I've now got two pieces to work with. And this smaller, narrower piece can work towards the front to give me the shape of my arrangement at the front. And I've worked that in quite neatly there towards the front. So at this stage, I've used 4 of the florist grade lilies, which give me the outline shape of my arrangement. Now I'm going to move to the supermarket grade lily, which are already open, which will give me the emphasis and the dominance that I want in the center. If you're at home and you've only got lilies that are in bud, then just continue using them towards the middle, in the same manner as we filled the design out with greenery at the very beginning. Create a uniform pattern and follow along in that sort of step-by-step manner. But for the purposes of the video, I wanted to have flowers open in the middle so that you can understand how a design should look. I started off with quite a large piece of floral foam, and that's because the stems of the lilies are quite big and you need to have that solid structure in the middle to hold the weight of your flowers. When these lilies open, they're going to be really heavy. We don't want that design tipping forward or the foam breaking and the whole design collapsing after you've spent such a long time on it. So I have 3 lilies that are more open, and the only reason they're more open is because I've had them here for about a week. And what I'm going to do is create that really visual focal point there in the middle. And this is what your design will look like when your lilies eventually start to open. And then I'm going to use 2, or 1 rather. I'm going to use 1 on one side and then 1 on the opposite side. So I'm trying still to create that sort of symmetrical balance. What you will find with the lilies, and it can be really problematic, is that the pollen that's on the center stamens of the lilies gives you that really dark, dusty powder, and if you're not careful, it will damage your lilies. If we bring the camera in under here, you can possibly make out that little bit of damage. And for the eagle-eyed ones out there, you will have noticed that I've already removed all of the pollen. And the best way to do that is as soon as that lily head starts to open and you can see the pollen, just use your finger and thumb to pull it off. And as the flowers open, keep removing the pollen, and then you won't get any problems at home with that pollen damaging any of your upholstery. And I'm not planning on adding any more flowers in that. My foam is covered. There is plenty of room on the side for me to be able to replenish the water and keep that floral foam wet. What I am going to do is just to use the sort of bottom part of the lily that I've got left. I'm going to use this at the back. This is going to give some weight to the back of the arrangement and hopefully prevent it from tipping forward. And it just means I'm using up that stem that I've got left over. These little ones I'm going to put to one side because I'll be able to use those in some work here in the studio later on in the week. But I think overall I'm quite pleased with how that's turned out. We had a really spectacular design, whether it's going to be in the home or you're going to pop it in the church. If you haven't got lilies like this, you could create a similar design with some roses. If you're in a tropical country, you might have anthuriums or some strelitzia. And these very traditional shape designs are really all about following a pattern and a structure. The flower shapes don't make a perfect triangle, but that's okay because I have that lovely outline shape reinforced with the palms there at the back. And if you are using supermarket flowers, you'll be able to create this design with 1 or 2 bunches of lilies. And if need be, you could add in an extra flower to go with them. But I'm really loving how that's turned out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button to be told every time I upload a new video. Stay to the end of the video because you will see close-ups of the design. And I look forward to seeing you for the next video. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.